corporate greed and what have you, but really need something more in their lives rather than just a new experience hanging out with people in a park. Again, that's why I'm leery about the argument that this kind of demand is demobilizing, demoralizing, and is co-optable. I don't really quite see it. And I think I kind of want to use that to come back to the question of whether or not it's anti-capitalist. To tie this into the question of demands. On one level, I'm kind of frustrated that this is almost taking place, and that we've kind of set up this dichotomy between these kind of transitional or intermediate demands, or reforms within capitalism, and the idea of a total transformation of the system. I mean, people had this argument over 100 years ago. I mean, in the Second International, communist and socialist militants fought this thing out, and I think the most perceptive and smartest of them came to the conclusion, and I agree with them, that reform and revolution is, you can't counterpose them. I mean, they're part of the same process. They're dialectically connected with each other, and you can't separate them out. So on one level, I feel like this debate kind of just reflects kind of how impoverished I think our political vocabulary and our political imagination has become to a certain extent. I think it speaks to the failure, I think, of the 20th century left to transmit its intellectual and cultural memory down to us, because I think, we wouldn't necessarily be having these kinds of arguments that have taken place, for decades and even over a century at this point. I mean, I personally, I'm a socialist, I'm a Marxist. I agree that with the folks who have argued against the formulation of demands that we should, be aiming at a total transformation, I guess, of the society. But how do I want to phrase this? And this gets back to my point about kind of the political impoverishment that I think is fairly widespread. I mean,